Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the finest games in our opinion, or at least the most exciting, because we haven't played them. Games coming to the Nintendo Switch in the month of April. As always, this is not an exhaustive list of every game coming to the Switch in April, because a lot of them haven't even been announced yet, that's just how it goes, and a lot of them aren't good enough to be featured. Let's just be nice about it. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. Starting things off on the 5th of April, we have LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Now, for the longest time, I wasn't really into LEGO games. I don't know why, they just kind of passed me by. And then at one point I got, I believe it was LEGO Lord of the Rings, which isn't even one of the best ones, and I immediately understood why people enjoy these, because they're just good fun. I mean, they're kind of simplistic in some regards, and no doubt this will be much the same given that it's a LEGO game, but still, they're great fun. They're just, you know, I suppose I would kind of put it in the same sort of field as like Kirby games, you know, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's not hard in any way, shape, or form. It's a really simple game, but it's just enjoyable. Not every game has to be Elden Ring, and this game isn't gonna be it. On the very same 5th of April, we have MLB The Show 22, and I say 5th of April with an asterisk, because it's one of those games where if you buy, like, the deluxe version, you can get it early, like on the 1st of April, which should be a joke, but it isn't. But as it stands, this is the whole of MLB The Show 22 compacted down onto Nintendo Switch. You know, it's not like a legacy version or anything like that like you get with FIFA. This is the full thing, and it's been condensed down, and it has suffered a little bit in the process, but the gameplay, it's still there in full force, and that's commendable. Even if it does look a bit poo. Yeah, there was a tech test and my colleague Tom had a go at it and he really enjoyed it, even though it was a bit rough visually, shall we say, and there are some significant performance issues even still, but it's still here and he still had a really good time with it, and I can't argue with that, even though I have never dreamed of being a baseball. Next up on the 7th of April, we have Sherlock Holmes The Devil's Daughter, one of 3 games coming out on the 7th of April featured in this video. Last month we had a different Sherlock Holmes game from the same developers, Crimes and Punishments. I always want to say Crimes and Punishment, but it's not, it's Punishments. And this game takes a lot of notes from that game, which was kind of a turning point for the developers Fregwares, where the previous games never really sang to me, but I really enjoyed Crimes and Punishments, and it still feels wrong to say punishments after crimes. I'm really looking forward to this one. The character of Sherlock Holmes is always enjoyable, and this is an adaptation that seems to do it justice. How can you argue? Unless you don't like Mr. Holmes. Also on the 7th of April, we have Chrono Cross, which is the follow-up to Chrono Trigger that I wasn't aware even existed until about a month ago. This game has been absent from any kind of re-release for a very, very long time, and loads of people have been clamoring for it because everyone loves Chrono Trigger, and to be honest, they could do with re-releasing Chrono Trigger as well, just saying. But it's always just, I don't know, I always really like it when an obscure game, even if it's one that I have no personal affection for, like this, I've never played it, just to know that an obscure, maybe kind of semi-forgotten game is getting a second chance, it just makes me feel very happy, and that's what I feel here. And if it's even half as good as Chrono Trigger, how can that be a bad thing? And again on the 7th of April, we have Chinatown Detective Agency, which is kind of a point-and-click adventure where you play as a detective in Chinatown, can you believe it? And you've got cases to solve and there's evidence in the game, blah, 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 you know, it looks nice, all that sort of thing, but what's really interesting about this is that it also relies on real-world information, which is quite a bold decision if you ask me, because, you know, you can be playing the game, evidence will dry up completely and you'll have no idea where to go, and you'll actually have to use like real world knowledge and like real world Googling to find out. Like an example they've given in the description is like a flight number or something like that, which I just pray it means that the game is still playable in the future, but that's a hell of a bold idea, and really props to the devs for doing that. I think this could be, like, it's going to be a bit niche, I think, but I think it's going to appeal to a niche demographic in a very, very serious way. Moving on to the 12th of April, we've got 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which, I don't know, that's fun to say. I'm sure I don't need to say it, but this game is gorgeous, as you can no doubt tell from the trailer you're watching, and it's kind of split into two different, like, fields, two different gameplay modes. You've got, like, an RTS mode, which is, you know, an RTS, but then you've also got kind of side-scrolling adventure, and it's leaning very heavily into the narrative. I don't know, it just strikes me as a very unusual and interesting kind of caper, and a lot of other people agree, apparently. It's been on other systems for a while, but it's finally making its way to Switch, and yes, that makes me a happy bunny. Then on the 13th of April, we have Tormented Souls, which at a first glance may just look like a kind of copy and paste, kind of boring, run-of-the-mill kind of survival horror thing, but it's a bit more than that. It seems to be taking a lot of notes from old-fashioned survival horror games like the old Resident Evils and stuff like that, which gives it very much kind of a retro vibe, but not too retro, if you know what I mean. Anyone who's a long-time viewer of the channel knows that I'm a sucker for any of this old-style gameplay because I'm old. And whilst I do have a bit of a love-hate relationship with horror games, like really good horror games where they really do scare you, like actually like makes me want to not play the game, which I suppose is the intent, but it's still a strange feeling of ambivalence. Either way, I'm definitely going to give this a look in. I think it's going to be a good one. Moving on to the 20th of April, we have Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Now, this is definitely, I would describe this more as interesting because it looks a little bit like they're porting the Wii version, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I can't say for a fact because I'm not super familiar with the differences between the versions, but given the fact that they're touting motion controls, definitely feels like they're going for the Wii version, which is weird considering there's already a much more improved version that was released on the 360 and PS3, and that's not the version we may be getting? I don't know. It's just intriguing. I'm curious to know why they've gone down this particular avenue, if indeed they have. Once again, I don't know for certain. The original version was just a really good, fun game from a different perspective of the Star Wars universe, and it's kind of Sithy, but not entirely. There's it's complicated. Whatever happens, whichever way it ends up swinging, I'm going to be keeping my eye on this one because it's certainly going to be an interesting exercise to observe at the very least. Then on the 27th of April, we have the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, which was revealed, the release date was revealed a day before recording this. I'm glad I waited. The Stanley Parable is just an absolute masterclass when it comes to narrative and storytelling and just weird gameplay. For anyone who's not aware what you do, you play as Stanley, and you have to, you like get to work one day. Well, it's not even you get to work, you've been sat at work for a while, and then all your co-workers have disappeared and strange things happen, and I really don't want to say too much because it really is just the sort of thing that you should just go in as blindly as possible. And even if you've played the original version on PC back in the space year whenever, this has got a load of new stuff, like a load of new endings and stuff. And, oh, you know what is, yep, the broom closet ending, yeah, I said it. If you like fun and irreverent humor, this is an absolute no-brainer. Then on the 28th of April, we have Parkasaurus, which is a management sim come park simulator, a bit like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but you've got dinosaurs. I'm a sucker for these kinds of games, and I've been aware of Parkasaurus, not to any like extreme degree, but you know, I've been aware of it. And I never for a moment considered it would be coming to Switch, so I'm thrilled. It's a really minor thing, but one thing I'm actually really pleased about with this is that it's using a grid-based system, and it's probably just because I like the old Roller Coaster Tycoon games, but I kind of miss grid-based systems when it comes to games like these. So I know it's often an option, but I just like the grid-based system. It just makes me feel comfortable. I know where one thing goes if it's in a grid, and then nothing can go in that grid space, and I can move on, and it just makes me happy. On the very same 28th of April, we have Transiruby, which is a very simple and straightforward looking game, and I think that's kind of to its benefit. It's made by the same people who made Kamiko. If you can remember that far back in the Switch's lifespan, that was a while ago. It's got a simple, pleasing art style, and it's a Metroidvania, and I don't know, sometimes I just enjoy simplicity when it's done well, and this looks like simplicity done well. Naturally, we will have to wait and see if the simplicity is indeed done well, but from what I can see so far, it just looks cozy and pleasing and straightforward. And lastly, on the 29th of April, we have Nintendo Switch Sports, which I'm still a little bit in two minds about, but you can't deny, this looks, if it is going to be Wii Sports 2, or I suppose Wii Sports 3, maybe even Wii Sports 4 if you include Wii Sports Club like a madman, this could be a grand old time. It could also be boring as hell, we don't know. But there's definitely some interesting ideas here. Like there's some crazy stuff going on with one of the bowling, what is it? It's not really a bowling alley. A lane, that's what it's called. Where there's like bumps and gaps and things like that, and like ramps and all these sort of things. And that's fun. I like it when they take sports that are very sort of, simple in their premise, but are generally, come down to real-world physics, and, get boiled down to the point where it's real-world physics aren't really applicable anymore, and make it more interesting through other means. That's always fun. Stuff that you couldn't do in reality, but you can do in video games. So fingers crossed it's not going to be a dud, eh? And there you have it. Those games are, in our opinion, the finest games coming to the Nintendo Switch in the month of April. And the sun's just come out and messed up my exposure. Is there a game that you're absolutely gaga for that we missed? Let us know what it is in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you follow my instructions on screen and click that subscribe button and relish every moment. And be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye. Look at the teethies. Look at the teethies. Sorry, boy. Hello.